We do have a public hearing this evening. Hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution adopting the negative declaration, amending the general plan and transit corridors plan, and adopting the San Bruno walk and bike plan with amendments. David?
Mr. Mayor and Council Member, as your Community Development Director, I'm extremely pleased to be here tonight to present this item to you. The city has worked for this past year on a walk and bike plan. It's the first comprehensive bicycle pedestrian master plan that the city has undertaken. The city itself has, of course, been planning, maintaining, developing a comprehensive transportation network for the city with objectives to provide a safe, convenient, and comfortable environment for all modes of transportation. We are very fortunate in that the city in 2013 went out and obtained a matching grant through MTC to prepare this pedestrian and bicycle master plan so that we could focus and integrate on aspects of pedestrian and bicycle planning to really improve our overall network with respect to these two areas. Tonight, I'm very pleased that we have a number of staff members here and consultants that have worked on the plan. In addition, we have the chair and vice chair of BPAC here. These individuals and so many others within the community have really contributed to this effort. We have Nico Latunich from Eisen Latunich here tonight, who will be able to answer any questions you may have after my presentation. Paula Bradley is here, who's been the assigned project planner, Matt Jones, and other planners and staff members. And again, like I mentioned, BPAC members. We have Jeffrey Tong and David Nigel from BPAC. This has been a community-wide effort, and thanks to our staff, our consultant, and our community members who really came out, we received over 1,300 comments this past year in preparing this plan, and we're very proud of that engagement effort. What we heard from the community really were concerns in a few areas. We heard concerns about getting across our arterials. Here in San Bruno, we have some major streets. We have San Bruno Avenue, El Camino Real as examples. And we heard from our pedestrians that oftentimes it's difficult to cross these major thoroughfares. Oftentimes drivers are distracted, and that we should look at ways to improve their safety as they need to move across these arterials within our community to get to activity areas, to get to the Bay Hill Office Park, to BART, to Caltrain, our downtown, to City Park and other activity areas within our community. We heard from our bicyclists. We heard from them saying that we need more bicycle pathways, striped bicycle lanes, protected bicycle lanes, and an expanded network, not only for transportation, but also for recreation. Our team went out, they went to BART, they went to shops at Tanforan. We had events at City Park. We listened, we heard, and the team put together the draft plan that's before you. The draft plan presents a number of projects and programs that would address the concerns we heard not only from the community, but also from our consultant and consultant team, experts in pedestrian and transportation planning. The plan has, as a framework, a number of projects and programs, as I've indicated. The intent really is, as the City Council and community goes forward into the future and makes decisions year by year with your annual budgets as to how to further improve our overall transportation network, this document can be used as a guide to make those decisions. We expect that in terms of implementation, that we will form an internal working group, a task force, a group of staff members to look at opportunities to go out and obtain grant funding and present to you, our City Council, those opportunities and link them up with projects and programs in the walk and bike plan. The types of, and I'll talk kind of at a higher level, the types of projects we're talking about, I mentioned we heard from community members and we heard from our advisors. We need to do more to improve our intersections, to move pedestrians from one area of our community to another, to activity centers. So a key area would be improving intersections to provide crosswalks, refuge lanes, to provide better lighting, flashing signals, to basically overall improve our intersection crossings so that people can more safely get across. And we're looking at improvements in terms of our bicycle lanes and improving our network. Hopefully overall having about 23 miles of a bicycle network, including some protected bike lanes, separated protected bike lanes. We're also looking at programs like Safe Routes to School. We're also looking at Vision Zero, a program whereby we would commit to 0 fatalities in terms of pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists by looking at this framework and putting in place improvements as funding is identified to improve the overall safety for our citizens and those people who come to our community. So at this point, this plan has been reviewed by BPAC. It's been reviewed by our Transportation Safety and Parking Committee. It's been reviewed by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this plan with the amendments that you see attached to the resolution in your packet. And tonight, our staff is recommending that you go forward and take the recommendation of the Planning Commission, approve the attached resolution with the amendments. The resolution talks about the negative declaration. We don't anticipate, since this is a program, that the program itself would result in any adverse environmental impacts. We realize that with each individual project, there will be a need for a separate and individual environmental review. But in terms of this program, the Walk and Bike Plan, we believe that the negative declaration is the appropriate level of environmental review. There's the Walk and Bike Plan, of course, with the amendments. And then you'll notice that in terms of the resolution and its heading, we're recommending that you amend the city's general plan and the transit corridors plan. And the reason for that is simply to bring in as the guiding document the Walk and Bike Plan with respect to walking and biking policy within the general plan. It in fact implements the general plan, as well as the transit corridors plan. Now, since we presented this to you at your last meeting on July 12th, we gave you a fairly detailed overview. Nico Latunich was here, the consultant, prime consultant on this, gave a very nice presentation, a PowerPoint presentation, and it appeared to us that the City Council received this plan very well. You had a few comments and questions, which we responded to. And since the meeting, Councilmember O'Connell has presented some further comments and suggested amendments to the errata sheet. And we have prepared an attachment. I believe you have a copy at the dais of the suggested amendments. We support those, and in fact, in some cases, they're corrections or further explanation. And if I could quickly go through those with you. So, for example, on the first page, you'll notice revised page 1 of 9. There was a need to correct this. It said College Drive south of Skyline College. Simply a correction. It should have read east. We appreciate the comment. We've made the change. We're suggesting that these changes be a part of your action tonight, by the way. The next one has to do with a revision to page 4 of 4. And in this case, I think the council member was asking basically for further explanation and clarification. We had indicated implement a citywide bicycle parking ordinance that specifies bicycle parking, locker, and shower requirements. She suggested providing more explanation. So we expanded this section and, in fact, added that these requirements, at her suggestion, must address both customer and employee needs. We agree. We were not as clear as we could have been. So we support the revised language. I believe it's consistent with her recommendation. The next one has to do with San Mateo Avenue. An objective of the plan is to slow traffic on our main downtown street, San Mateo Avenue. There was a recommendation as part of the errata, an amendment, to have a raised crosswalk. That's only one opportunity, one measure that can do what I suggested, slow traffic, provide for a safer environment in our downtown. So again, we're expanding this and suggesting that as part of further study, as we look at what the appropriate improvements are on San Mateo Avenue, we look at bulb outs, curb extensions, high visibility crosswalks, and other traffic calming devices. And as the study would conclude, whatever that measure would be, the city would pursue that based on a council action. Again, we support that change, and I think it's consistent with the comment that we heard. The next one has to do with basically looking at a roundabout, and there was discussion in the walk and bike plan about a roundabout at the location of Crystal Springs Road and Oak Avenue in the vicinity of City Park. There was some discussion about that in terms of there's a lot of pedestrian activity, a lot of bicycle activity, a lot of young children in that area, some concerns about ensuring the safety of pedestrians in that area. So there was kind of a pullback from looking at a roundabout at that location. However, we did say that there should be study to see if that would be an appropriate measure to calm traffic and at the same time assure the safety of all modes, pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists. And so basically we're modifying the language here to indicate that this does deserve further study. We had language here, I think that was conflicting and inconsistent. We've cleaned that up, and I think that the idea with the revised language is consistent with a comment we heard from the council member, and frankly consistent with what we intended to say, that this area needs further study. The objective would be to come up with a solution that would be safe for all modes, and I think we've addressed that. The next one on the reverse side of the sheet has to do with Cherry Avenue at Grundy. In our business park, in the Bay Hill Business Park, as you all know, we have Walmart.com, we have Google, probably others. We have quite a few corporate shuttles in that area. So the idea here, and this is, again, I think more of a cleanup in terms of the description here, is the idea is really to look at this need or demand that we're experiencing and to address it, to make sure that the corporate shuttles can come in, but can do so in a safe manner for the pedestrians and others involved. So again, I think our adjustments here are consistent with the comment, and again, we support this language. And then kind of going on, I think this is the last item here, has to do with enforcement. I think we misstated this in terms of one of the issues that we heard come up several times, both from pedestrians and bicyclists, was a concern about motorists and motorists not being observant or as careful as they could or perhaps should be in terms of both pedestrians and bicyclists. And the idea here is to increase or focus our patrol or traffic enforcement to address motorists and their behaviors to better ensure the safety of our pedestrians here and our bicyclists. So again, I think we reworded this to indicate that needs to be considered. There are other interests that you as council members, the manager, certainly the police chief need to consider. So the idea here is we revise the language to say, consider focusing traffic enforcement staff resources to improve pedestrian and bicycle safety. So I think that is consistent with the comment we heard, and of course we support that. So in sum, we recommend that you go forward and adopt the resolution in your packet, thereby adopting the negative declaration, the walk and bike plan, and the supporting or companion amendments to the general plan and the transit corridors plan. As I've indicated, we have staff here tonight, and Nico Latunich, our consultant, that would be happy to respond to any of your questions, myself as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, before we open the public hearing, any questions for staff at this time?
Through the chair. Thank you. Thank you, David. You did an excellent job of addressing all my concerns. I just had one more, and it's on page, well, it says attachment 1, exhibit F, page 4 of 7, and it talks about when to do some of these things, and it's the 7th bullet where it says medium term, years 2019 to 2021, and it talks about waysigning. If the council concurs, I'd like us to consider moving that up to a more near-term goal. I think it's something that we could do and probably not cost a great deal of money, and it's something that needs to be done sooner than later, in my opinion.
I apologize, you did have that comment, and we support that as well.
Oh, good.
We believe as staff that the wayfinding signage could be moved up from a midterm to a short term. And again, as I've indicated, I hope I'm very clear about this, we understand fully that the appropriation was for the preparation and adoption of this plan only, that these projects will need to go out and as part of future budgets identify funding, grant funding, and other funding to pursue those. But we agree that the wayfinding signage could and should be, we believe, a short-term measure or project to pursue.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for David before we open the public hearing?
Through the chair. So for the enforcement side, we went from strong, hiring one additional full-time officer, to consider increasing, focusing traffic enforcement. I'd like to see something stronger as like perhaps a plan, like, and to have a plan of how we would do this enforcement. Because safety is like the number one thing we need to do. We need to make sure that when people are riding their bikes and see people walking around, that it's safe. And if we don't have enough enforcement, then the motorists are going to continue doing what they're doing. So I would like to, or maybe we can have our consultant just briefly mention on the enforcement side of an opinion on that.
Well,
let me give you a quick answer first, and then the consultant and/or David can give you a little bit more about the idea that's expressed in the walk and bike plan. Fundamentally, decisions about staffing and about deployment of the workforce belong to the City Council, and the plan outlines provides a endorsement statement that would then become the responsibility of the City Council to consider as part of your budget prioritization process. And we would recommend that you do so, especially given with the walk and bike plan being fresh and some of these initiatives hopefully being, at least the near-term initiatives being deployed during the coming year, that this be something the council may want to consider with next year's budget process.
Right, but by having that plan, we would be able to budget what it would take to implement the enforcement side of it. So I think it's ripe that you have the right people working on it to kind of figure out where that enforcement is needed, and then getting the plan out of how you would do it, which determines how much it's going to cost. At some point, yes, that can come back to the council, but until we start working on that, if we don't put in a plan in place, I don't think that it may just sit for a while, and I would like to see something a little stronger of what we're actually going to do.
Oh, I'm sorry, Marty.
Sure.
Through the chair? My intention to ask for a change in that was because it was so definitive. It said one, then it said half. And my idea behind changing it to what the police chief and city manager jointly recommend was that maybe it's something totally different. Maybe it's 3 part-times, or maybe it's a community service thing, or maybe it's something. This was so prescriptive that it didn't give any leeway. So I asked that the statement be changed so that it does give leeway and an ability for the chief and city manager to concentrate and formulate some plan to give it back to us at budget time. So that's why I suggested the language.
And through the mayor, if I could add to that, we heard the comment, and we were considering the fact that one of our recommendations in terms of implementing the plan is that there will be an internal task force, staff-level internal task force, including the city manager's office and the police chief, the police department, whomever he assigns. And so as we move forward and talk about the plan and how to go about implementing it, just as the council member indicated and our city manager indicated, the idea would be to evaluate how to address this concern that we heard from both bicyclists and pedestrians in the community about driver behavior. And so there are many different options for that. I would imagine that the task force would certainly look at that, provide a recommendation to the manager, which would then come to you in terms of budget discussions.
All right, points well taken. Anything else for staff? All right, this time we'll open the public hearing. Would anyone from the public like to address the council on this item?
Honorable Mayor and San Bruno City Council members, I'd like to address you as a private citizen of San Bruno and not as a BPAC member. San Bruno is currently known for its auto dealerships and an auto repair program at Skyline College. But with the Bicycle Pedestrian Master Plan, San Bruno has the opportunity to redefine itself as the greenest city in the peninsula. Bicycling is not just for recreation, it's for transportation. But let's be practical. If you were a bicyclist and you were commuting to and from home to BART or Caltrain, you're going to have to maintain your bike. And currently, there is no bike repair shop in San Bruno or Northern Peninsula for that matter, and there won't be any unless there's a bicycle infrastructure to encourage a bicycle repair shop owner to have an incentive to come in. With no bike lanes, with no bike trails, no one's going to want to put a business maintaining bicycles in San Bruno. Secondly, if a commuter lives at the top of Skyline or anywhere west of I-280, a bicycle infrastructure is not going to be that practical on a daily basis because a commuter will have to go up to the top of Portola Highlands, for example, to get back home. You're going to need an electric shuttle bus that's going to be coming around maybe every 15 minutes, but residents won't want that if it's going to be noisy. And residents will not go up to the top of Portola Highlands, let's say, unless they have a way to get up there, fog, wind, rain, in winter season. But you won't be able to do this unless you have the Bicycle Pedestrian Master Plan in place. Lastly, on rare occasions, a resident might need a car, but car share companies will not come into San Bruno unless there's a bicycle pedestrian infrastructure in place. Why? Because no one's going to walk to a pickup or drop-off location. So all in all, with everything the director had said, planning director had said about the Bicycle Pedestrian Master Plan, in general, this needs to be in place before San Bruno can implement anything. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to the council? All right, we close the public hearing. You're going to be precluded from talking about this to the council. Any action?
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second to close the public hearing on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Discussion or action by the council on this item?
Well, unless Ken wants to, I'll introduce the resolution adopting the negative declaration and amending the general plan and transit quarter plan and adopting the San Bruno walk and bike with the amendments.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Rico Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Marty Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Sometimes the biggest, thickest agenda items are the fastest, but this tonight doesn't give any indication of how many hours and hours and hours you poured into this, and I want to congratulate you for all the work. Now it's up to the council, along with you, to figure out how we're going to fund all of this kind of stuff, but that's another challenge that we can take on, and sooner than later, I hope. So congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you
And
very much.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I want to also congratulate the staff and the community on their outreach and things. I've seen it in the last probably 10 to 15 years, how bicycle and pedestrian issues have been, come to the forefront in our communities. And again, like I mentioned in the last meeting, the South County has always been more of the, the bicycle-friendly area. And now we've had a BPAC in place now for many years, and the community is open to it. This is now a working document, and it's just as good as any zoning ordinance or any building guidelines. So congratulations again, and hope to see a lot more of this stuff. Thank you.
Great. Good job.
Recognize Paul Bradley for choosing.
Yeah, I think Ken mentioned staff in general, but I know Paula especially has put in an awful lot of time in this. So Paula and Dave and everyone, it's a working and living and breathing document. So hopefully not we're huffing and puffing too much going up and down the hills, but it's going to be a lot of fun to get this implemented. So thank you all very much again. Thank you.
Thank you.